Chapter 296, Can I Buy Out? Tyrannical ambition had made their own guide. Yishu wasn't too surprised by this. With a few prompts to guide their reasoning, it didn't matter how good they were, anyone would want to try. After all, researching it was free. Not only tyrannical ambition, but Misty Castle was the same. When he asked Hazy Mist also evasively laughed, meaning that they didn't need it for now. Yishu understood and didn't expose them. Even if the two guilds researched their own guides, it would only reduce the number of his clients. This type of secret weapon definitely wouldn't be shared with other guilds, or else they would be creating more competitors. The two guilds that had previously bought Yishu's guide refused his new one. Yishu chose another guild. Another one, Blue River, received the message and replied back. Yeah, last time, you missed it. This time, you should take the chance. Last time it was Line Canyon. Did Misty Castle use that guide? Blue River asked. Of course. What's the price? Blue River said. A list of materials appeared in front of him. Blue River quickly skimmed over it and replied, This. Not just me, I'm afraid no one in the 10th server can fulfill your needs. The list was all Fire Forest uncommon materials. However, they had only begun running Fire Forest 2 or 3 days ago and really didn't have many materials. It's not a rush. It's not our first time making a deal. We still have trust, right? Yishu said. What he meant was, you can give it once you have it. Last time, when he peddled his guide, Blue River had refused it because he had made a deal with tyrannical ambition to give up on competing for the Line Canyon record. He was clearly someone who kept his part of the deal. Even if it was a time when his guild really needed to come back, he didn't use any loopholes as an excuse to break the deal. How could he not trust someone like this? Okay, if you're fine with it, then it's not a problem. When we get the materials, we'll hand them to you. Give me a guide, Blue River replied. Give me your email. I'll send it to you. Blue River gave him his email address and then asked, Can I ask you something? How many guides have you already sold? Blue River was an understanding person. He wasn't naive. He had completely understood the guide's value and purpose last time. This guide wasn't a guarantee for the record. It was only a ticket to the competition. It didn't make sense for him to only sell one copy. Simply speaking, the 10th server records were once again being controlled by Lord Grimm. However, Blue River knew that with Lord Grimm's identity, there was nothing he could do about it. Just you for now. Oh, then. Is it possible to buy the guide out? Even though Blue River knew the possibility wasn't high, he couldn't help but ask. If he sold these guides, he had 10 or so guilds as buyers. Buy out? That would mean that the price would be 10 or so times higher. It wasn't something that they could pay. Haha, buy out. I'm going to check the mail. Blue River saw that Yishu was avoiding the topic, so he said something to break it. Unexpectedly, Lord Grimm messaged him again with a new list. If you're going to buy it out, then this is the price. Blue River was startled. He discovered that the buyout price, which he had originally thought wasn't possible, looked possible. Compared to the previous list, this buyout price only added a few more items. From the value of the list, it wasn't 10 or so times the price, but only 2 times the price. Such a cheap price was completely out of Blue River's expectations. No way, Blue River mumbled and scrolled up and down. That was it? There was nothing after it? Is there another message? Blue River thought. After a bit, another message popped up. When he looked, he saw that it was from Lord Grimm. What do you think? Just this? Blue River couldn't help but ask. Yeah. Blue River hesitated. It wasn't because the price was high, but because the price was too low. How difficult. If the price was high, he couldn't buy it? If it was too low, he was hesitant because it seemed like there was a trap. Even though the other side trusted him, Blue River wanted to pay him back. But as the guild leader, he was responsible for the 10th server and couldn't act out impulsively. Can I think about it? Blue River asked. Oh, how long? Is a day okay? Alright, Yishu laughed in reply. How could he not know what Blue River was thinking? If he was going to buy it out, then he had to look at the guide's value. Blue River would probably test out the guide, especially when midnight came. By then, Blue Brook Guild would begin competing for the records in the 10th server. If he really could set an incredible record, then buying out the guide was the same as buying out the record. Could the guide help Blue Brook Guild do that? Yi Shu didn't know. After all, Tyrannical Ambition and Misty Castle had already created their own guides using similar reasoning. Yi Shu didn't know how good their guide was, either. He was confident in one thing though, Tyrannical Ambitions and Misty Castle's guides could be no better than Yi Shu's. There was no limit to player versus player battles because people could progress and change. However, dungeons were fixed. Some of the luck was fixed within a certain range. There was absolutely a limit. As long as the limit was reached, then there was no way the other side could surpass it. Yi Shu thought and then continued to play. He had already finished with Sin City's dungeon runs. As a result, Yi Shu did the same as Tang Ru. He flipped through guides while doing the required quests from level 31 to 38. Once again, he sat in the same place the entire day, only moving to eat. At night, Chao Yifan grabbed his 1-inch ash and got online. When he looked at God's level, he also coughed up blood. Yi Shu asked him and, sure enough, their tiny herb had their own Christmas event. As a small figure on the team, he couldn't be so free like Su Mucheng, which was why he hadn't been online for those 2 days. Chao Yifan knew about the Christmas event's rewards. He had guessed that he would fall behind in levels, but he had never imagined that it'd be by so much. The god was already level 38. The two would have difficulty playing with each other. He was currently regretting everything. If he had known earlier, then he would have handed his account over to have it leveled. Chao Yifan sighed, but was helpless. There was no way he could catch up on his own, he'd have to have someone level it for him. As a result, Chao Yifan didn't really play much that night. He hastily greeted God and then logged off. He immediately contacted the substitute leveler and handed his account over. In the blink of an eye, it was midnight again. The entrances to the dungeon areas were packed with players. Yi Shu was at his spot during the shift. Tang Ru was in her designated spot as usual. Chen Guo had gone to bed early. Are we going to dungeon? Tang Ru asked. She had been completing quests the entire day. Her brain was fried. Let's go, Yi Shu said. Su Mucheng had already gone online. Yi Shu and the other two walked over and partied up. Currently, only the elite teams from the big guilds were in Sin City. The wild teams still hadn't reached here yet. At the entrance, he saw many familiar IDs, they were all players that had teamed up with him during the Christmas event. They greeted each other half-heartedly and then went into the dungeon. 3 definitely couldn't compare to 5, but that didn't mean the dungeon would be hard. The 3 pushed forward. As the time approached 12:30 a.m., Yi Shu began to pay attention to the messages up until 12:40 a.m. without any news of a dungeon record. Yi Shu was currently thinking that the first round of running the dungeon has resulted in the guilds all having made mistakes, when he heard an announcement: Tyrannical Ambition had taken down Herb Garden's Sin City dungeon record. Chapter 297, I once had a guide. The Sin City's teams from the top guilds were all undoubtedly from the Christmas event. Through their final presence rewarded experience and a day of leveling, they were now level 39. It didn't need to be said that through the Christmas events, the guilds had obtained quite a few pieces of level 35 equipment. The members of these teams already had a full set. It could be said that the competition in Sin City had reached a new level of intense fighting. The record previously held by Herb Garden had already been a fairly impressive record. If it was simply a record being broken, then it wouldn't be too astonishing. However, Tyrannical Ambition's record of 29:34-71 had beaten Herb Garden's by nearly 3 minutes. Such a large improvement clearly wasn't possible to achieve through luck. There had definitely been some sort of trick. The world was shocked, but when Yi Shu saw this, his heart relaxed. Was it through your guide? Tang Ru asked. No. Oh, then how does it compare to your guide? Slightly worse, Yi Shu said. This was his reason for relaxing. If Tyrannical Ambition hadn't made any mistakes during their record-setting run, then Yi Shu was sure that their guide had a few oversights and wasn't at the limit yet. As long as Blue Brook Guild precisely did what the guide required, then breaking the record shouldn't be a problem. Then, who bought your guide? Tang Ru asked. Blue Brook Guild, Yi Shu said. Oh, Tang Ru had learned these names by now. It was hard to avoid a discussion in the global chat. After all, 3 days ago, tyrannical ambition had been beaten full of cuts and bruises from public ridicule. But with 2 back-to-back astonishing records in Line Canyon and Sin City, they came back with a powerful counterattack. With such a record, tyrannical ambition's voice sounded righteous and self-confident. Tisk tisk tisk, people from tyranny are always like this, Su Mucheng said. As someone from the pro scene, she was used to calling the team's name this. To Su Mucheng, tyrannical ambition was the same as tyranny. Yeah, they're the type of people to never stop provoking others, Yi Shu said. If their record gets beaten in a bit, where will their face go? Yeah, they're too impulsive. They could have at least asked me, Yi Shu said. If tyrannical ambition's players had come to ask him, he could have told them that their record wasn't good enough. If they were going to brag, they still needed to try harder or else their reputation would quickly take a blow. Su Mucheng laughed and then said, Ask you. You're the one person tyrannical ambition doesn't want to acknowledge, no? This question really stumped Yi Shu. Whether it was tyranny's people or tyrannical ambition's players, none of them liked Yi Shu. When Zhang Yu saw that the 10th server's team had broken the dungeon record, he leapt up in joy and celebrated with the person next to him. The dungeon run was a success, Cold Knight reported. Yeah, I saw it, Zhang Yu smiled in response. The guide had been made by him, so he naturally had an idea about what the record should be. Everything that could be done had been done. If they wanted to improve it even further, then it would have to depend on luck. In short, that was as far as it would go. We just don't know about Yi Chu. Cold Knight wasn't as excited as Zhang Yu. Ha ha, the dungeon is fixed. No matter how great Yi Chu is, there's a limit to how fast you can go. The record won't be going anywhere. Zhang Yu had put in a lot of effort into creating the guide and had held very high expectations for it. He was clearly a lot more confident in his guide than Cold Knight was. Cold Knight saw that the guild leader's reasoning made sense, but he was still uneasy. He wanted to ask Yi Chu, but he also didn't want to appear weak in front of him. Even though Yi Chu was a great god, as someone from tyrannical ambition, he didn't want to lower his head to him. Another 10 minutes passed from tyrannical ambition's record. The world was still discussing it and no new record came. Yi Shu's group of 3 spent 50 minutes before finally finishing their first run. Without saying anything more, they directly went in again. Not long after, Yi Shu began paying attention to the messages again. If a second record was going to come, then it was about time. Not long after, another announcement really did come out for Sin City. The new record was set by Misty Castle, time, 29 hours 33 minutes and 46 seconds. 1 second. They had only beaten tyrannical ambition's record by 1 second. Such a small difference was a bit frustrating, but it was common for this type of competition between experts. When Zhang Yu saw Misty Castle's record, he wasn't angry. On the contrary, he laughed out loud and sent Cold Knight a message, look and you'll know. His guide is the same. Misty Castle had bought the guide last time. Zhang Yu thought that they did the same this time, too. He hadn't thought that Misty Castle would do the same as them and also try to create their own guide. Keep trying, Zhang Yu encouraged his 10th server comrades. When he thought of Misty Castle's expense in buying the guide in order to set the record, while their tyrannical ambition had relied on themselves, Zhang Yu felt superior. Tyrannical ambition didn't want to appear weak in front of Lord Grimm, but Misty Castle wasn't the same. Even though they had politely declined Lord Grimm's offer for the guide, with the new record, Hazy Mist sent Lord Grimm a message, how is it? Is this record good enough? Yeah, it's okay, Yi Shu replied. If we used your guide, how would it be? Misty Castle asked. It would be better than yours. Really? Hazy Mist sent a grimaced emoticon. He was unsure if Yi Shu was cheating him, so he used an emoticon to show his feelings. It's true, Yi Shu replied with a sunglasses emoticon. Whether or not Hazy Mist believed him or not was all up to Hazy Mist. Then which guild bought your guide? Misty Castle wasn't believing it. If there really was a guide better than his, 2 records had already been made, so where was that better record? But he didn't need to wait for Yi Shu to reply. An announcement quickly popped up. Congratulations Blue Brook Guild for setting the Sin City dungeon record. Time, 28 hours 12 minutes and 52 seconds. At the same time, Yi Shu received a new message from Blue River with 2 words, buy out. Do you believe me? Yi Shu grinned. I believe you. I believe you. If the price isn't enough, we can add more. Blue River even asked to increase the price, showing how confident he was in the guide. The guide's price had already been cheaper than Yi Chu personally substituting in. The buyout price was also within Blue River's acceptable range. There's no need for that. It'll be the same as that list I sent you in the afternoon. No problem. When we get the materials, we'll send them to you, Blue River replied. Okay. He closed Blue River's chat window. There were still new messages from Hazy Mist. Is it Blue Brook Guild? Sure enough, your guide really is better than ours. What's your price this time? Tell me it. Hello. Is anyone there? Hazy Mist sent him 4 consecutive messages. The guides are sold out. Sold out? You can sell out? Hazy Mist quickly replied, but when he finished, he figured out the answer. Blue Brook Guild bought it out? There was once a copy for me, but I didn't value it. Hazy Mist left crying. Tyrannical Ambition's Cold Knight wasn't as emotional. He had wanted to value it, but guild leader Zhang Yu was intent on fighting it out. Zhang Yu had even stopped caring about his work in the Heavenly Domain and focused on the 10th server. When Blue Brook Guild's record came out, Cold Knight felt that things weren't looking good. He had previously declined Yi Chu's guide. Should he ask him for the guide now? He didn't want to lower his head to Yi Chu, but he was always the one who had to do all the dirty work. Cold Knight was depressed. However, he hoped that the guild leader would continue being stubborn and refuse to ask Yi Chu for help. That way, he wouldn't have to lose face. Chapter 298, Research is the Key to Efficiency. Club Tyranny. Game Studio. Midnight was supposed to be these players' time to work. But with another setback after only just a few days of happiness, quite a few instantly felt tired and gave up on tonight's work. Taking advantage of Zhang Yu's currently heavy mood, the majority of the players escaped. Zhang Yu was staring at his guide in shock. This guide had been made with his sweat and tears. He had thought that he had created a guide at the limit. He had been full of confidence and had shown it to everyone around him. But Blue Brook Guild's record was like a slap to his face, so heavy that his face was red. Cold Knight was still worried whether Zhang Yu would tell him to ask Lord Grimm for help. But at this moment, Zhang Yu was too embarrassed to give the order. Complacency leads to loss. Modesty brings profit. Zhang Yu fully understood what this meant now. He was truly too sad. Just what was he missing in his guide? Zhang Yu flipped through his document. Here was everything he had researched on Sin City's underground prison. He could only take the blow. As the Grand Guild leader, he had to be respected. Where had he gone wrong? Zhang Yu anxiously thought. The more anxious he became, the messier his mind became. The messier his mind became, the harder it was to find the problem. Don't look for Yi Chu and ask Blue Brook Guild? Zhang Yu even had this type of thought. He then thought again. Blue Brook Guild was competing with them. Why would they tell him their methods? How stupid was that? Zhang Yu discovered that this thought completely showed how much of a mess his mind was in. I can only rely on myself. Zhang Yu told himself. Cold Knight saw that Zhang Yu didn't call for him and was very happy. The two didn't know what each other was thinking, but each of their actions complemented what the other wanted. After Blue Brook Guild completed their buyout, Blue River let out a sigh of relief, but he didn't relax. As an expert, he could also see that it wasn't necessary that a top-tier god like Yi Chu create the guide. When they saw the guide, most of their thoughts were, why didn't I think of that? If they had been the ones to create the guide, how long would it take them? Blue River didn't know, but he did know that after breaking the record, they were in an advantageous position. Guides could be considered as research and technical development for the dungeons. If Tyrannical Ambition and Misty Castle hadn't set the record, then Blue River might not have bought it out. It was only after these two guilds set the record that Blue Brook Guild understood the value of the guide. Even if it wasn't absolute, currently, the buyout meant that they were in the lead. In Yishu's guide, even if Blue Brook Guild tried to find places to improve, they wouldn't be able to come up with anything new. As for Misty Castle, they knew that there was no way they could obtain Lord Grimm's guide. With their strength, they possessed the ability to compete. But competing with the current fastest record wouldn't be easy. The opportunity had been placed in front of them, but they hadn't valued it. After losing it, they could only look back in regret. As for tyrannical ambition, Zhang Yu refused to compromise and continued to research. However, from his confidence in his guide, he knew that the guide was already his limit. If he wanted to break his limit, how could it be so easy? Also, his reputation was on the line and he was too embarrassed to ask others for help. He pressed forward with brute force alone and tossed and turned, but no progress was made. Yishu was now much more carefree. After finishing the needed quests, Lord Grimm was almost level 39. And next, he was ready to research the next dungeon's guide. The selling of Sin City's guide had gone by extremely smoothly. With a price that even Blue River couldn't believe, he easily sold it out. It looked as if he could have earned more if he didn't sell it out, but in reality that wasn't the case. Just like how the top guilds didn't dare look for Lord Grimm to substitute in for them, buying these guides could only be known by a small portion of the guilds. It wouldn't be good if news about it were to leak out. If the players knew that the guilds were using his guides to set records and that the guilds weren't doing it on their own, then it would be the same as before. The records would be meaningless and Yishu would then have nothing to sell. This was why it was best that these guides were slowly being spread in private. If he sold it openly, then if some evil guy waited for the guilds to set the records first and then let the secret out, it would be very bad. This time, when Misty Castle ran over to Yishu to negotiate, even though he had guessed who the guide had been sold to, Yishu never confirmed that the guide had been sold to Blue Brook Guild. The reason he did that was to guard against this. At 7 in the morning, Yishu had finished his shift. The 10th server's Sin City dungeon record stayed at that record that had been set at 1 o'clock. After that, for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th day, Blue Brook Guild, Tyrannical Ambition, and Misty Castle worked hard. Blue Brook Guild set new records, but the time difference between each of them wasn't too great. They were all around the same time. As for Misty Castle and Tyrannical Ambition, even though they had some breakthroughs, the distance between their records and those of Blue Brook Guild were still off by a length. From level 20 onwards, when the fight for the dungeon records began, the fighting had always been bloody. Each dungeon had been beaten, wave after wave. But this time, the other guilds looked as if they had been completely beaten. Only Blue Brook Guild stood at the top without any competition. When the 4th day passed, the first 10 places on the Sin City dungeon leaderboard were completely filled by Blue Brook Guild's team. And at this moment, the 10th server's top players were reaching level 40. Blue Brook Guild's name shook far and wide in Sin City and they had learned the benefit of being the leaders in dungeon technology. At this moment, they reached level 40 and were ready to prepare for the new dungeon's challenge. The first thing they had to do was find Yishu for a guide. God, Blue River sent a respect emoticon. Yes. We have the materials. How do we give them to you? Blue Brook Guild finally gathered all the buyout materials from Fire Forest. You can just send them to me, Yishu said. The in-game mailbox could receive practically anything apart from players. Okay, and, haha. You understand, Blue River laughed. Are you talking about the Thousand Wave Lake dungeon guide? Of course, Blue River was somewhat nervous. He was afraid that the other side would have some unexpected reply. When he looked again, he saw a new list of materials. This. What about buying out? Blue River looked. He recognized quite a few. They were Sin City materials. They didn't have all the items on the list. Even though they had run Sin City several times, the problem was that there weren't many teams running it, so they didn't have many materials. However, when he looked at their previous experiences with Yi Chu, Blue River felt that not having them for now shouldn't be a problem. In any case, he trusted that the other side wouldn't lie, so he directly asked for the buyout price. You want to buy it out again? This time, times 10, Yishu replied. Chapter 299, Big Sale. 10 times. Honestly speaking, this wasn't a surprising price for Blue River. After all, selling over 10 copies of the guide wouldn't be hard to do. However, for Blue River, who had already tasted the sweetness before, he felt disappointed when he heard the price. The price was a bit too high for just a dungeon record. Blue River had a certain understanding of Yishu's personality. He sighed, but he didn't haggle over the price and simply replied, "All right, give me a copy." "Are you buying it out?" Yishu asked. No, I just want a normal copy," Blue River hastily said. "Okay, I'll send it to you right away." Blue River was a bit startled. Why did it suddenly feel like he had bought takeout rice noodles? As he thought of this, he opened up his mailbox and found the guide. Blue River immediately opened it and studied it. The dungeon's science and technology had arrived. He had to hurry and understand it before he could begin using it. Blue Brook Guild was already working at it. Misty Castle wasn't sitting idle. They had spent a large amount of time, but they hadn't been able to create the most advanced guide. The dungeon competition was a fast-paced event. They had lagged behind in technology and they could no longer depend on it. As a result, after hitting level 40, Hazy Mist also bought a guide. After buying it, he used the latest technology, while using it as a way to learn. As for tyrannical ambition, Zhang Yu had spent 4 days studying the Sin City dungeon, yet he always lagged behind by one step. Who knew how many of his hairs had been pulled off? Because of the special relationship between him and Yishu's identity, Zhang Yu made things difficult for himself. When they reached the level 40 domain, he hadn't yet finished with Sin City, when the new Thousand Waves Lake dungeon had come. As for the other guilds such as Herb Garden, they weren't as stupid. They were all moving towards Lord Grimm, asking him about the situation. Yishu remained calm and collected when he sold his guides. He didn't let his guard down against those who inquired about other buyers' situation. However, because there was a limit to how many high-leveled materials there were, Yishu would only allow trusted guilds like Blue Brook Guild to pay these high-leveled uncommon materials at a later time. For those guilds he wasn't familiar with, his list only contained materials that they had. First the materials, then the guides. If they didn't have the materials, then they could substitute other materials to compensate. In the blink of an eye, Yishu sold 10 copies of the Thousand Waves Lake dungeon. The 10 guilds that had bought the guide began practicing. The record ever-changing, making people watch them hurriedly, just like viewing flowers from horseback. When they saw their times, they all mutually understood. In order to not waste their guild's materials, all of the guilds practiced extra hard. The competition for the Thousand Waves Lake dungeon was extremely intense, starting from the very first day. Tyrannical ambition was still in a knot. How could it be so incredible? The records from these 10 guilds had thrown everyone else competing aside. And their tyrannical ambition was among the obliterated crowd. After a fit of teeth-grinding, Zhang Yu finally reached terms with himself. Forget about it. If everyone else has joined in, then what are we waiting for? Hurry and buy a copy. Cold Knight didn't wait any longer. When he saw that Zhang Yu had finally cleared his mind, he didn't care about his honor. He directly contacted Lord Grimm. Yishu didn't say anything more. If you want a guide, then you have to pay materials. It didn't matter who you were. Tyrannical ambition took the guide and immediately began researching it. Even though they had started slower, everyone had the same guide. The deciding factor was no longer on who had the guide, but rather, the guild's skill level. Lord Grimm's guide as the ticket to the competition was finally in operation. Chen Yahui knew about the dungeon guide as well. No one cared as much about the 10th server records as Excellent Dynasty. He needed this dungeon guide. Because Li Hao no longer cared about the 10th server anymore, by only relying on their own guild's strength to create a guide, they fell behind as well. After thinking, Chen Yahui found a trusted aide who didn't have the guild's name to privately message Lord Grimm and see if he could get a guide. The result was beyond his expectations. This unknown character was able to add Lord Grimm as a friend. After saying what he was there for, he also got a price. The price list was sent to Chen Yahui. After looking at it, he didn't see anything unreasonable and immediately sent the materials. When he looked at the guide, he saw that it wasn't fake and secretly felt delighted. He felt he had played a clever trick, easily duping Yi Chu. It made him feel quite good. As for Yishu, When he saw that an unknown player had asked to buy a guide from him, he wasn't too surprised. He maintained his uncaring attitude and quoted the price. Yi Shu's big sale had earned him quite a profit. As for who the records were set by, he didn't care. It was still too early to see the results. He was currently paying attention to the official webpage. The new year was about to come and there would be an event soon. However, because the rewards from the Christmas event had been quite good, if things went as usual, then the New Year's event wouldn't be too great. Today was the last day of the year and the day passed in the blink of an eye. The game announced a new event, which was a chain quest. Yi Shu skimmed over the quest chain and saw that it was very complicated and was even a bit difficult. The rewards from this type of quest shouldn't be too bad, right? He immediately flipped to the rewards part. Yi Shu looked and immediately felt disappointed. Players who completed the quest would be entered into a lottery. The rewards weren't bad, but the problem was, the rewards were all real items. In terms of rewards, Glory's New Year event didn't let players down. But to Yi Shu, real items, whether it was a computer, mouse, monitor, cell phone, keyboard, account card, or in-game currency, held no interest for him. At midnight, the calendar flipped to a new year. Glory's New Year's event began. Analysts pointed out that, due to the event's complexity and difficulty, even though it could only be done once, it might even take longer than the 3 days allotted to finish. The players didn't dare be negligent. When the event began, the NPCs were flooded with players. Yi Shu really wasn't interested in the rewards, but he heard that the experience from the quest chain wasn't bad, so he also joined in. No matter how difficult the quests were, if players like Yi Shu couldn't do it, then you'd have to suspect the game company's intentions. Are you planning on giving these rewards to players or not? As a result, the quest, which the analysts had claimed would not be finished in less than 3 days, was finished by Yi Shu in 3 hours. Soon after, he obtained his rewards, 1 yuan's worth of in-game currency, making Yi Shu seriously question whether the profits he had earned from the selling of his guides had used up all of his luck. After finishing the quests, Yi Shu helplessly went to continue leveling. Yi Shu had thought of taking advantage of the event's quests. Should he make a guide to sell? Should he sell his services for the more difficult parts of the quest? The value of doing these were very low. There weren't high prospects for it. Players could do it with help from their friends. Being unable to finish the quests in 3 days was complete nonsense. The rewards from the New Year's event really wasn't bad. In these 3 days, there were frequently cries of joy in the happy internet cafe. Some even won a computer, causing everyone to glare jealously at them. During the event, the dungeon competition was as fierce as ever and leveling was as fast as ever. Among these, 2 more guilds had looked to Yi Shu for a guide. With the materials he acquired from sales of his guide, the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella had been fully upgraded to level 35. The day the event ended, Yi Shu did his usual. He got up and was about to go to the smoking area to play, when he was suddenly stopped by Chen Guo. "Come with me on a trip this weekend." Trip? Yi Shu was surprised. Even an internet cafe manager had to do this type of thing? "Yeah, to City S," Chen Guo said. City S? Yi Shu stared blankly, when he suddenly thought of something. Chapter 300, 3 tickets. On the first weekend of every year, the Glory Pro Alliance assembled all of the pro players and host a gathering. The gathering would have many performances, especially the All-Star competition. 24 pros would be chosen through a fan vote. It could be said that these 24 pros were the 24 most popular players, with the largest fan bases. Because of this Glory event, the gathering was also called the All-Star Weekend. After the great success of the first All-Star Weekend in the Glory Pro Alliance's 3rd season, the event came back every year with a different club responsible for hosting it. This year, Glory's 8th season and 6th All-Star Weekend was hosted by Club Samsara. Club Samsara was located in City S. Once Yi Shu heard Chen Guo say that they were going to City S for the weekend, he thought of this special day and understood what was going on. "Are we going to participate in the All-Star Weekend?" Yi Shu asked. "Yup. I managed to get 3 tickets. How amazing am I?" Chen Guo exclaimed. Even though the competitiveness during the All-Star Weekend might not be as great as a normal match, for the many fans, having the chance to watch such an exciting event was already worth the ticket price. As a result, the All-Star Weekend's tickets were in very high demand. If you wanted to buy one, money wasn't the only thing you needed. Luck played a huge part as well. Not bad, not bad, Yi Shu forced a smile. All-Star Weekend. With his status, he had been chosen as one of the 24 players every single year. Even this year, starting from when the vote started at the beginning of the season, the amount of votes he got was very high. It was only because he had retired midway that his name got wiped from the list. For Yi Shu, who didn't want to be exposed in front of the public, the All-Star Weekend was an event that required a lot of interaction, so truthfully, it wasn't an event he liked to participate in. The All-Star Weekend was a performance, so the competition there wasn't very serious. The battles between two sides wouldn't be in an enclosed area like conventional matches. The stage was set where the audience could directly see them. As a result, Yi Shu always hid behind the stage. His computer would then be connected to the stage by a cord. Yi Shu was the only one who wouldn't come up on stage. In the past, his invisibility was a part of the All-Star event and it had even turned into a type of joke. But All-Stars competition this time around would no longer have this part. Yi Shu had managed to escape from this year's All-Star competition with great difficulty. How could he have known that Chen Guo would buy a ticket and call him to go along? In the past, he had been a participant and this time, he would be a spectator. Thinking about this, he decided that it'd be fine and, as a result, he wouldn't decline Chen Guo's good intentions. In Chen Guo's mind, she didn't think that anyone who played Glory would refuse this type of trip. That was why she had notified Yi Shu. She didn't have any intention of negotiating and didn't notice Yi Shu's reluctance. She had already put in order the issue about the three not working at the internet cafe for the weekend. 3 tickets naturally meant 3 people. Yi Shu, Chen Guo, and the other person was, of course, Tang Ru. Tang Ru already knew, though she displayed her usual boredness. She clearly wasn't as crazy of a fan as Chen Guo was. After Yi Shu went online, he played for a bit and then saw that Su Mucheng's cleansing mist had come online. I'll be going to City S tomorrow, Su Mucheng messaged. Considering Su Mucheng's skill level, there was quite a dispute as to whether or not she belonged among the top 24 players. However, the invitations to the All-Star competition weren't chosen based on ability, but rather popularity. In this area, Su Mucheng was the favorite among Glory fans. From the very start of the event, she had been chosen as one of the 24 stars every time. Yeah, I'll be going too, Yi Shu replied. Ah, you're going too? They found you, Su Mucheng asked. What? Who found me? Yi Shu was puzzled. For this year's All-Star Weekend, of course. Samsara hoped that you would be able to come on stage with a special invitation, so they contacted Excellent Era. The manager even came to ask me whether I could contact you. I, however, ignored him, Su Mucheng replied. Oh, not that. I have a ticket. You bought a ticket? How thoughtful. Nah, it's my boss. She got 3 tickets and asked me to tag along, Yi Shu said. Oh, as a spectator. Yeah. It'll probably feel very different, right? Probably? I want to be a spectator too. Get sick again? Yi Shu suggested. It probably won't work this time, Su Mucheng sent a sad face. When she skipped the team's Christmas activity, it was obvious that being sick was just an excuse. They just didn't bother with her. As for this All-Star event, even though it wasn't an official competition, it was definitely an official event. Sick? You need proof. Come on, Yi Shu obviously understood. This type of official event was quite difficult to escape from. Yi Shu wasn't the only one who didn't want to participate in the All-Star event, but everyone still went anyways. After chatting for a bit, the two continued to play. It was just the All-Star Weekend. They had gone many times already. There was nothing extraordinarily amazing about it. It was just that Chen Guo had only watched the streams before and she didn't have any partners before, so she was too lazy to go. Now that she had Yi Shu and Tang Ru to accompany her, Chen Guo got 3 tickets and prepared to join in on the excitement. A day passed and Friday came. In the afternoon, the 3 flew over to City S. They arrived at the hotel Chen Guo had booked. She and Tang Ru would be in one room. Yi Shu was lucky and got his own room to himself. After packing up, Chen Guo shouted at them to get ready to leave. The All-Star weekend didn't only last one day. It would start from 8 on Friday and would last for 2.5 days. Chen Guo was already unable to wait any longer. She dragged the two out the door and studied the map the entire way there. After looking at it for a long time, she still didn't understand the directions to the event. Yi Shu was just about to say something, when Chen Guo suddenly made a decision: call a taxi. But this taxi driver clearly wasn't a Glory fan. In his mind, Club Samsara wasn't a landmark. After hearing her, he stopped the taxi and repeatedly asked Chen Guo to confirm that those were the correct words. He then asked, at a loss, do you know how to get there? Chen Guo coughed blood. She had called a taxi because she didn't know where it was. It's not too far from here, Chen Guo vaguely said. It was true that it wasn't that far. She had booked the hotel near Club Samsara. Yi Shu wiggled into the conversation. Go along Changde Road and take a left at Zhaojia Bridge. Once you get past the intersection, we'll have arrived. Oh, there. The taxi driver heard and immediately understood. He stepped on the pedals and they went on their way. Chen Guo replied stupidly, where's that? Club Samsara, Yi Shu said. You've come here before? Chen Guo asked, when she suddenly thought again, oh, I forgot. Even though you were just a small character, you still had to be a part of a team, right? Have you been to all the clubs? Yeah, Yi Shu nodded his head. Then why didn't you say anything earlier? Chen Guo said. I was about to. Once the taxi started moving, Chen Guo stopped arguing. The taxi went with Yi Shu's directions and, sure enough, it really wasn't that far away. Just as they were about to arrive, the taxi suddenly stopped. The taxi driver stuck his head out the window and looked at the traffic. He opened his mouth, stunned. Why's the traffic so bad? The taxi driver couldn't understand the reason for the traffic jam. See the sidewalk up ahead? You can let us off there, Yi Shu said. As a result, the three got off at the sidewalk. They looked at the traffic jam. Chen Guo wasn't unhappy, but rather, she was excited. Wow. Is this all because of the All-Star competition? How exciting. Look. Yup, Yi Shu obviously knew the reason. Experienced fans wouldn't drive to the event. They'd be stuck in traffic and it was highly likely that they wouldn't be able to find a spot to park. Lead the way, Chen Guo waved her hands. After knowing that Yi Shu knew the way, she threw her map into the trash can. Yi Shu looked around left and right. He led the two and they soon arrived. The entrance had already been arranged. Amidst the crowd of people, the three quickly entered Samsara's stadium. The esports stadium wasn't any smaller than a conventional stadium. The biggest difference was that the stage in the middle of the stadium had many electronic screens. Those watching the TV and internet broadcast could only watch as the stream chose the scenes for them. But at the actual location, everyone had their own display screen especially for them. The spectators could choose to watch from all sorts of points of view. There were also slow-motion shots for them to look at. In this type of esports arena, besides the atmosphere, they could watch from all around, which was something that those who watching the broadcast didn't have access to. Especially in the team competition, the 10 characters were all fighting at different spots on the map. How the broadcast chose the viewpoint really made the internet watchers curious. Only those at the scene could fully appreciate the competition's brilliance.